who have joined us in this another session on the skill modules. We have started these sessions on May 1st with the orientation program, and today we are coming forward with a very interesting module, which is the Kashmiri embroidery. And as the name suggests, it is a art form which is a very traditional art form, which is famous all around the world and has its intricacies and the different forms and formats that are attached with this particular art form. So, what I would do, I would not talk about it much because we have a panel of experts who are the force behind creating this skill module, and they would take us along how they have done it, what are the pluses, what are the minuses, how we can introduce it into the schools, and to what extent this can be fruitful for the children. One small query that I always take up before any other session is the one that I receive as the maximum number of times from the previous sessions. And that particular query was a lot of people are asking that these modules are from 6 to 8. So, why in the presentations at times we talk about module 1, module 2, and module 3? So, I would clarify this, in such a way that first of all, we have that circular 48, which I'm always talking about, which is there on the CBSE website, and it is dated 6th of April. It talks about the entire gamut of this introduction of skill modules into our CBSE system. So kindly go through that particular circular because it will talk about all the parameters, vis-a-vis assessments, guidelines, and how it has to be implemented in your schools. Who are the teachers that can be mapped from the existing resources, and the other things involved into this sort of a implementation modalities. I would just answer that one question, which is about why we are talking it about and saying module 1, 2, 3, and at times we are talking module 6, 7, and 8. It has a very simple reason. When these modules were envisaged, we were talking about introducing it into a class 6 and class 7 and class 8, but over a period of time it has been decided, and it has been a mutual understanding that these modules can also be delivered to a class 9 student or a 10 student or an 11th or an 12th, depending on their time, depending on their interest, depending on their availability. Nothing is mandatory. So keeping this parameter in mind, we would try to call these modules as module 1, module 2, and module 3. Because if we take up any module, say if we take up Kashmiri embroidery, then the progression has to be in a way that we have to take up the module 1 with a batch of students, then progress to module 2, and then to module 3. We can't have a class, even if it is an 8th standard or a 10th standard, straight away starting from module 3. So that's the difference that we are talking about when we say it is module 1, 2, and 3, or this class 6, class 7, and class 8. Because when we had envisaged it, when we had created these modules and uploaded them, we were talking about only 6 to 8 standards. But now it's an open forum for everyone, whosoever wants to be a part of the skill module in your particular schools. So I would really not take much of your time and hand over this session to Mr. Sandeep Sethi, who is a person behind creating all these wonderful modules here. And over to you, Sandeep Sethi, sir. And we're looking forward to a wonderful 1 hour session with all our panelists and the resource persons who are with us. Over to you, sir. Thank you.
Namaskar and thank you, Niti ma'am. And of course, the entire credit goes to the National Education Policy 2020. After that, it's one of the times where the policies have really been taken into action and people are following them and working on it. And of course, when CBSE came up with this proposal of preparing manuals, we were asked by Mr. Biswajit Saha whether PDKF Jaipur would do something about it. We volunteered. We said, yes, we will manage to do that. And of course, our focus was Jaipur to begin with, but then we knew that we could influence more cities to come on board. And what fun that from Jaipur we were able to influence a school in Jammu to come up with embroidery. But for the teachers and principals who have been attending these sessions, and the ones who have not been attending them, those who attended for the first day itself. Well, we started off with an orientation. So technically, it is definitely our 12th session happening, but there are only 11 manuals discussed so far till date because we began with the orientation. Then, of course, it was pottery. Then we shifted to bakery. Then we got graphic novels, khadi, block printing, mask making, media, herbs, heritage, food preservatives, blue pottery, and today we have Kashmiri embroidery. But while this process has been happening, what Niti ma'am has just mentioned the fact that you can start off in maybe ninth or 10th also. But of course, you have an advantage that if you start off in ninth, you can complete two modules in 1 year. You can complete three modules in 1 year. There's no restriction that you have to do only one module a year. And apart from this, you can take two combinations also, three combinations also. It's all depending upon the infrastructure and facilities what the school is offering, what faculties you have, what teachers can join in, and maybe work it out. And of course, the manuals are there on the CBC portal now, and the videos are also there. So you can go through them and see whether you are making, like you have got people on board who would want to take it up and would make it very easy for the children to do it. In fact, the way I look at the manuals right now, I feel that a ninth and standard child can do a lot on his own. He doesn't need even the help of the teacher. So they are making the children independent of taking up things. And of course, they'll take up only the things which they like. So automatically, when you like something, you do it in a much better way. So just yesterday, when we did the blue pottery thing, and a few days back we did the khadi thing, we found out that there are schools in Madhya Pradesh, Jabalpur, where there's one Acharya Amit who's handling this project, wherein he's getting these girls' school to make khadi, and the education is absolutely free for the children. It's a CBSE board school where the education fees are not charged because the children make khadi, and khadi making is integrated into their curriculum, and they sell khadi. And khadi, on what level they're selling, it is there available at the Banaras airport also, their products. So when they're selling khadi there, they are able to generate revenue and give education free to the girl child. So what I'm trying to bring up here is the possibility of creating this skill into a product, marketing it really well. School has got ample of resources are very clear that your child has made it. So in future, after he finishes the education, he wants to enter into trading, he can do that. He wants to have a service industry, he can do that. But it's just begun. So there's nothing to worry. You can always take the route that way also. So as I mentioned, such a beautiful, diversified country. You've got so many states and so many art forms, and one art from each state becomes your thing to show off to the entire country. So like Jammu showing off the Kashmiri embroidery, which comes up there. So there's going to be so much fun for other than the Bengal city to get exposed to that art form. So like what I've enjoyed is we've learned so much in this process, in this journey, and it is endless. So yesterday I met someone who is going to give us 10 different form of arts, and like how Leela Bodia helped us out, the blue pottery thing in Jaipur, this organization is going to help us to give us 10 different form of arts for this program. So 10 more manuals will come. Bodia is known for blue pottery. So we're getting these people now on board. This is really fun happening. And that 12-hour syllabus for the child on that 12th day, that would be one day where the child would really be wanting to come to school because he knows it's study in a different form. And as the moderators and as the teachers who've been talking about their manuals have also spoken to us, how they are directly linked with academics. So you've got maths there, you've got chemistry there, you've got physics there, you've got biology there. So everyone is mapped up with the learning objectives and outcome with the NCRT to see that this particular skill, when you're teaching it to the child, when the child is exploring it, what other dimensions of academics are being covered. So that is the real fun part for all of us to be aware of that. So teachers and principals don't feel shy. Take up two, take up three, take up four, pick it up, take it up, experiment it. And I'm sure now, like yesterday, Leela ji mentioned that she's willing to train teachers who can come to Jaipur for a 7-day program. So we are going to bully now Pramod ji to do something for us in embroidery in Jammu also. So we'll be getting these schools to take up this responsibility that if some schools want to get the teachers trained, so the host school who has done this as a pilot project can call them over and they can train them for that particular thing. And hand holding, of course, each school would love to do it. So now I'm going to welcome Dr. Richa Prakash. She's the principal of Delhi Public School, Jaipur. Her school has done a module on blue pottery, and a school and a group of schools is doing many, many more. But over to Dr. Richa Prakash and then to Jammu School Model Academy for their manual on embroidery. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you, Sandeep sir. Thanks a lot. Good evening, everyone. It is a pleasure for me to be a part of this journey. It is definitely a great endeavor which has been initiated by the CBSE Skill Education Unit. This session, which is going to unfold before you on Kashmiri embroidery, is of course one of the many in the series of the graphic novels that have been initiated by the CBSE schools under the leadership of the school team and the CBSE team. As I was listening to Sandeep sir, I think he actually correctly said that all these manuals help us understand how the entire diversity of India is integrated, and also how the various sectors of the Indian economy are also being integrated from the primary to the secondary to the tertiary sectors. Skill manuals, to me, a blue pottery by my school, which was taken up yesterday. So these we all somewhere or the other have possessed Kashmiri they also help in instilling a lot of values in children as they intercultural connect, connecting the extreme north with the rest of the country. These manuals have come to be truly a beautiful art form. So embroidery, we really look into the embroidery. I think we all would remember. I remember the moment I was thinking of, engaging with all of you through this platform on embroidery. It reminded me of the SUPW days from my childhood, some useful product made. Those times were very, very engaging. And I remember whenever I finished some work, it was really a delight, to present it to the family members. And now that I recall it, it actually taught me a lot of patience, beside the skill, of course, to manage the minor repairs and of the clothes independently. As I was going through this manual also on Kashmiri embroidery, it beautifully weaves into its pages the skills that are needed to achieve excellence, and it gives a very in seriatim, step by step understanding of how to achieve it and how to be there. I think with this, I would like to now invite and request Dr. Pramod Kumar Srivastava, the principal from the Model Academy, Jammu, to introduce his team who will share the presentation with us on Kashmiri embroidery. And I'm certain this will help us also break through the inhibition, which is related to learning the skills, which will, which help us to be empowered to know more about the cultures of India through the various handicrafts. And it was a beautiful journey going through this skill manual, getting to know the different types of embroidery besides the different types of stitches which bring into that embroidery. So over to Dr. Pramod Kumar Srivastava, the principal from the Model Academy, Jammu, whose school has initiated and completed the skill manual on Kashmiri embroidery.
Thank you so much, Richa ma'am. Thank you so much. First of all, good evening to all esteemed officials, Niti ma'am, Jyoti ma'am, and Richa ma'am, and of course Sandeep Sethi sir. It is it's a matter of pride and privilege that we are presenting our skill manual on Kashmiri embroidery through this platform. Let me tell you, this is all initiative taken by Sandeep sir. Those he has said, don't take my name, but we cannot stop ourselves to taking his name. The kind of what guidelines and support, the patience he has, and we have developed. The Model Academy developed around say 8 novels in our previous last year also during pandemic time, and now this manual, this Kashmiri embroidery manuals we have created. Is all his initiative and guidelines which has been provided to me, provided to our team rather, the entire faculty members. They're very much, eager to learn the things from him. So thank you so much, Sandeep sir, for all your guidance and valuable suggestions time to time. As Risha ma'am said, when we were studying, We are having even when I was in the primary section, in our primary section, the needle work and then the thread work has been taught to us. So we were so readily involved and engrossed by learning all those things, which I remember today even also. So these kinds of skill education and skill manuals, what we are teaching to our children, what we are giving insightfulness of the to our students, that is really a great initiative taken by the CBSE skill education and CBSE academics also. So thank you so very much for taking this initiative of introducing the skills manuals, skill subjects, because you know what, children, they really need it. It is a need of our. If you talk about the integration part, yes, of course, it is always integrated with different subjects, whether it is chemistry, whether it is biology, whether it is mathematics or all. It is integrated. All these kinds of skills related, education, they are related. So Model Academy also has taken the initiative, and we have created these skill manuals for, as ma'am said, Niti ma'am said, we cannot say in a class six or seven and eight. It is what the level one, level two, and level three, and which can be introduced to all the classes. Rather, why we can restrict this manual to class six, seven, and eight? So we have our team with us today to present the manual. Let me introduce Mrs. Manju Ali from Model Academy. She is going to present the manual, skill manual, along with her the associate, the IT person, Mrs. Vinita Gupta, and Manju Ali also looking after uh, the skill education as a coordinator, the skill education also, and she inculcates and she tries her level best to inculcate and to engross the children by learning and integrating the art education and the skill education into their academics as well. So I think I should not take the much of the time, because this manual is very important and very pertaining topic which had been chosen by. So Mrs. Banju Ali, it's all yours now, and kindly present your manual and let the people know that what kind of work you are doing. Thank you so very much, CBSC, Skill Education and Academics, for providing this platform. Thank you all, and God bless everyone. Thank you, Mrs. Banju Ali.
Thank you very much, Pramod sir. But at the very outset, my gratitude and thanks to Niti ma'am, to the CBSE officials, Richa ma'am, and everybody on this platform. The topic which Model Academy has taken, the manual, Kashmiri embroidery. For that, we need to travel to Kashmir. I would love to take all of you on a virtual tour to Kashmir. Enjoy the beautiful gardens there, come back and then discuss our skill manual. Kashmir, as we say, it's not just a place, but it's an emotion which everyone wants to experience. The beauty of this gorgeous paradise has been defined by several poets, authors, and philosophers in their own style. And with the music, rivers gushing through, the shiny waterfalls, the picturesque surroundings, and the lush green forests and meadows, it has always appealed to everyone. And everything about Kashmir, as you can see in the pictures also, is supremely divine and beautiful. Amir Khusro, an eminent poet, a Persian poet, he has described the beauty of Kashmir in a beautiful couplet which sums up the entire beauty of Kashmir. He has said, Ghar baroi zami ast, ghar baroi zami ast, hame ast, hame ast, hame ast. If there is a paradise on earth, it is here, it is here, it is in Kashmir. And he has justified the splendor of this place in the most perfect way. Kashmir is a valley between the great Himalayas and the Pir Panchal mountains. It is rich, varied history, means its arts and craft have a multi-religious and multi-ethnic flavors. Kashmir. Kashmiris are also known worldwide for their handicrafts. You will really enjoy if you feel a sense of peace and ease and soothing effect when you let your fingers dip into the chill waters of the Dal Lake and feel the serenity, the beauty of Kashmir. We have the beautiful shrines, the pilgrimages in Kashmir, and it is also known as the seat of scholars, sages, and saints. We have some beautiful pilgrimages there, and which are worldwide known. We have the Char Sharif there, we have Hazrat Bal, and then we have the Barfile Baba's pilgrimage there, Amarnath. Little about Jammu also I would like to touch. Jammu is a place of beautiful gardens also and beautiful monuments. And we have the blessings of Mata Vaishno Devi on us. Traveling to Kashmir is in itself a pleasure. And whosoever goes there gets dipped into that music and the beautiful handicrafts and the work of embroidery everywhere. Kashmir, when we talk about, if we look at the scenario in our own country, we see that the embroidery and handicraft of Kashmir has traveled to every state, every region. And CBSE has done a wonderful task of introducing these skill manuals because from this, what are we doing? We are knitting India together. Shresht Bharat, everybody together. So we should know the handicrafts, we should know the cuisine, we should know the culture of each place. That was about Kashmir. And I'm sure you virtually traveled to Kashmir. I'm hopeful that you enjoyed the journey. Coming back to our main emphasis, that is about introduction and history of Kashmiri embroidery. When we introduce this skill to our learners, it is very important that first of all we give them the introduction and history of that embroidery. Otherwise, children these days they don't have patience. They will not consider it as a thing to learn with fun because they have to use their hands, they have to use the needles, they have to use the cloth. So it should be introduced in a fun-filled manner. So before we start this task of introducing the embroidery or the Kashmiri handicraft, we need to give the children a brief about Kashmir's history about the Kashmiri embroidery. Indeed, it was introduced in Kashmir by traders traveling along the Silk Route in the 13th century. Skilled craftsmen came from Persia and Central Asia, taught this art form to the local population. When we talk about the local population and we see the embroidery on the shawls or on the firans, it has that impact of the Persian culture and the Central Asian culture because the craftsmen from centuries, from generations, have learned this art from their everybody in the family. Moving on, after the skilled craftsmen came, Kashida was introduced, and it is one of the oldest forms of embroidery in India. It is also in the local language, we call it Kashida Kari. So it's known as Kashida Kari or the Kashmiri embroidery. The history of this embroidery in Kashmir can be traced back to as early as 15th century with the introduction of the Mughals and the Persians coming to the land of Kashmir. So the history of embroidery travels from there. And that was 15th century. It started, it came into Kashmir. But how did it get an upsurge and who was responsible for it? 16th century saw an upsurge in this textile industry, in the industry of art coming up now. And it was during the Mughals that it was introduced here. The Mughal emperors are known to have patronized it, and Kashmiri shawls and other garments were becoming popular around the world, around the world. So when we go back, when we turn the pages of the history about the introduction of or the history of the Kashmiri embroidery, we'll come to know that it did not originate of its own there. It came from outside because Kashmir was a place which was visited by everybody for its scenic beauty, for everything. So it traveled there and the craftsmen acquired this skill With the result, it stayed there and started developing day by day. Obviously, the dramatic shifts in the changes started working, and Kashmiri embroidery too started shaping up and became an important part of various Kashmiri textiles. And since then, its demand has grown multifold. Its demand has not grown multifold only in the regions of India, but it has traveled abroad. So, this embroidery, this handicraft, if you travel to various countries across after India, you go abroad, you will see somewhere or the other. Either you have the Kashmiri carpets there, or you have the Kashmiri embroideries there, or you have the Kashmiri handicrafts there. That means people who are traveling, the tourists, coming down to our state, that's to Jammu or to Kashmir, they love to take this art because it has so much to offer. What does it offer? I'm going to the next slide. That was the introduction. These are Kashmiri craftsmen at work. I would like everybody to have a deep look into it. They have a different style of sitting. They keep their legs up and they sit against a thick pillow or a wooden plank or something very hard, which keeps their posture very well done, because apart from doing the kashida kari, doing the embroidery on the cloth, they need to take care of their health also. So physical health is taken care. They sit against a wall with a big cushion, or they sit against a wooden plank so that their posture is upright, and they do the embroidery on the cloth. Now, why did Model Academy pick up this? What was our aim? What was our objective? There are manifold aims to it. First, important and pertinent is it's the implementation of the recommendation of NEP 2020 by CBSE. I think Richa ma'am also referred to it, and Pramod sir also said, these skills are mandatory for the children to learn. I am, as a teacher, thankful to CBSE for introducing skill education. When I was a student in Kashmir way back, we were made to do Kashmiri embroidery, the sit stitching, made to sit, and we were made to cook, we were made to do carpentry, we were made to plug wires. So that skill really helped us. And CBSE has introduced now, so it is a great thing for all the schools that this manual is introduced. What does this manual talk about? What does it emphasize? It emphasizes on bringing vocational education into the mainstream, which is very, very important. After the child goes through studies, and if he has learned this kashidakari, he has learned this stitching, and he has learned the different types of embroideries, it will help him in his vocational education. He will be earning, setting up their stalls, or getting into business with other people. So education mixed with vocational education gives the end result, which is very fruitful, beneficial for the child. Moving on, our third emphasis was to expose the students to the necessary hands-on training, along with creating linkages for the best pedagogy. It is very important hands-on training, because I'll be telling you in the next aim, how does it help us? It focuses on creativity, which is very important. Children need to be very, very creative, bring in their thoughts and put it on the cloth, or try to bring out a masterpiece. And it works on the sensory as well as motor skills. Critical thinking is analyzed through this, as well as problem solving through the emphasis on experiential learning. These children, it paves a way for what we are looking for, the skill development, that's creativity or enhancement and coordination, the motor skill, as well as critical thinking, which is very, very important for us. It also enables the students to amalgamate their creativity with the acquired vocational skills, thereby ensuring wholesome learning and development. Now, our project is the child on whom we are working. enhancing his skills, giving him way out for his creativity, helping him to take another skill, which is very important. And by the end, when we see the end result, we see a wholesome development of the personality of this child with whom we introduce these modules. Our prerogative, our objective also is that by the end of this, the child has learned. And what has he learned and how is he putting that into practice? So these were our aims, which were focusing on this skill. Now, after the aims are objective, we're coming on to the main thing, that's embroideries of Kashmir. There are 5 basic embroideries of Kashmir now that the times have changed and people are bringing it. People are bringing in more different versions of it. But basically, what Kashmiri embroidery talks about and what children need to learn. The first one, and very important, is Ari or crewel work. This Ari and crewel work, everybody has seen on the curtains, on the drapes, on the bed sheets. And it is believed to originate from Barabanki in the Kutch region of Gujarat. And this kind of embroidery is locally known as zalakdozi. It is a very old technique, but also very, very popular. When we talk about this crewel work or Ari work, this form of embroidery can be done. Now, the question arises on what textile? The textile can be cotton, it can be wool, it can be silk, it can be velvet. And this embroidery, as I said at the initial start, is seen on curtains, drapes, and other upholsteries. And this embroidery includes flowers, blossoms, leaves, and creepers. The last sentence which I emphasized on, I'll be talking about that last of all. Why did I emphasize on the creepers, the flowers, and the blossoms? What does it help us to know? After Ari or crewel work, we are moving on to the Sozani embroidery. Sozani embroidery was brought into Kashmir by an Islamic saint, Shah Hamdan, in the 14th century. It is described as a technique of meticulously, as you see in the video, it is very meticulously done. You have to be very, very careful about while we are doing this embroidery. Meticulously fine embroidery, encrusted layout to make the fabric look encrusted like a tapestry. If anyone has seen the Sozani work, it looks very fine and the tapestry work on this because the needles which they move, they do it very, very fast and they maintain the distance and the colors put on this are very, very vibrant. And it is the most sophisticated form of the needle embroidery. And the best part about Sozani embroidery is that you can see it exclusively in Kashmir. It is the most celebrated art of Kashmir. After Sozani, I am moving on to Tilla work. Very popular nowadays. You can see ladies wearing shawls, wearing stoles, ferens with this Tilla work. And this is one of the celebrated arts of handicrafts in Kashmir. And this kind of embroidery is done with golden or silver threads. And it's mostly done on Kashmiri traditional garments like we wear ferens these days. We wear salwar suits, stoles, and shawls. And it is also commonly seen on ethnic wears, and it is the pillar work is also acquiring a place in the fashion industry also. It originated from the remote village of Zari in Iran, and Shah Hamdan was the main propagator. When we talk about the word Zari, it talks about the different types of threads, the golden and the silver thread in it, which gives it a very royal, which gives a very regal look to the tapestry, to the cloth, what we are wearing. So that was about Tilla. I'm moving on to the paper mache or the paper mache, what we call it generally. It is the form of embroidery which is a bolder variant of the Sozini. I talked about Sozini, and this is a bolder version of Sozini, and it consists of breathtaking motifs which are worked in bright, beautiful colors with satin thread. And the motifs are outlined in black to give a protruding effect. If these motifs are not outlined with a black, it will not enhance this embroidery. Rather, if you see in the video, they give it later on that black look to make it more vibrant, to make it look more beautiful. So this is a bolder version of Sozini. And when the motif is completed, it is outlined with another thread as to make it appear more prominent. So that was about paper mache, which is very popular, not only in India, but across India in different countries. And the last is the kalamkari, talking about the embroideries. Kalamkari, it's a handmade piece of work done on pashmina shawls and painted in kalamkari art. Kalamkari, the word, comes from two words, kalam, meaning pen, and kari, meaning work. Hence, kalamkari means the work of a pen, and pens used in kalamkari are made from bamboo. The colors are natural dyes. If you see this video which ma'am is sharing with us, it has really enhanced it. And the kalamkari effect is given to it, and it is done with a bamboo pen. So that was about the different types of embroideries in Kashmir. We move on from one stage to another when we are teaching a child. We started with the history and moved on to different types of embroideries. But now the manual talks about the different levels. And so at different levels, we need to teach children what we have got now. So when we are introducing it at level 1, what are we supposed to introduce? How will a child get tuned to these teachings? I am requesting again and again, it should be taken as a hobby, and children should feel fun with it, because they should enjoy at every point, whether it's stitching at the first level or progression to the second or the third level. So they should enjoy these stitches at every level. Talking about the first level, the first stitch which is taught is a running stitch. This is a basic stitch. When we teach children embroidery, this is a basic stitch. And unless and until we reach up to the third level, which is the final shape of the embroidery piece, unless and until the child has learned the running stitch, he or she will not be able to do the work. So this running stitch is usually the first stitch, which is taught to the learner, and it is basically loosely spaced rows of short running stitches which are used to support padded satin stitch. And it is this stitch is also used in hand sewing and tailoring also. So if you see the spacing on it, it is done very, very loosely, because the first running stitch, the child understands that how I have to move around. He should not feel at the very outset very monotonous and very tough work. So go at a pace. We have to go at a progression, and this is the first running stitch at level 1. Moving on to the back stitch, running stitch, and then the back stitch. The back stitch is a versatile stitch. We call it a versatile stitch, which is usually easily to work, and it is ideal for following both simple as well as the minute outline. This stitch gets its name from the process, which results in each stitch going backward from the direction of the line for a formation. So the child is using gross motor skills, coordination. He or she is keeping his vision intact and working on what are the parameters to be used in this stitch. The first one was a running stitch, wherein we taught the child the use of the needles, the thread, and how to move about it. But we're moving on to the progression, then to the back stitch. After the child has learned the back stitch, we move on to the stem stitch. Stem stitch is one of the most common and basic embroidery stitches. It is used frequently to surface embroidery, free form embroidery, we call it. And this stitch is used to form flowers and plants, stems, and variety of other applications. I'm often on using that, on these pieces which the children make or which the artisans or the craftsmen make. Everything has flowers or blossoms or birds. I will come last of all to that. Why the flowers and blossoms are there and why the craftsmen use that. After the stem stitch, we are moving on to the cross stitch. Here the picture is more clear now, from the running to the stem and now to the cross stitch. This stitch is a form of sewing and popular form of counted thread embroidery. And traditionally, cross stitch was used to embellish items like household items, tablecloths, or dish cloths. Are most popular, the decorative piece of items. And we can use it for greeting cards, and children can use pillows, make pillows with it, make hankies with it, and get them gifted to their friends or to their family or to anybody whom they want to gift. After cross stitch, the fourth stitch we teach at this level. That's the manual which we are showing with this. That's level 1. The learning outcomes and all. We are moving on to level 2. Now the child has learned the basic stitches, all 4 stitches. He has got little knowledge about the embroidery, the stitches, and the patterns he has to follow. Now he is in progression. We are moving on from one stage to the other. So we are progressing and teaching the child. Now we are moving on to the next stage. And that stage is level 2. That is the satin stitch. It is a basic stitch, is a fill stitch we call it, covering small areas with smooth close stitches that lay flat on the fabric. And it's sometimes referred to as a flat satin stitch. Traditionally, satin stitch fills in the area without an outline around it, and the stitching forming smooth shapes and even lines. So we are introducing the satin stitch. After satin, we are going on to the woven spider wheel, as you can see. It's a spider shape embroidery. This typical embroidery, I would like to mention here. This type of embroidery, the artisans or the craftsmen use in enhancing certain certain skills and showing certain pictures of Kashmir with vibrant threads and colors. That's why woven spider wheel it's called. And it is a whipped spider wheel, and though it is more solid than a true web, the spokes and lines do in fact resemble a spider web. And this stitch works well as the embroidery of flowers and some other motifs around it. After we have taught this, we move on to the lazy daisy stitch. Lazy daisy stitch is nothing more than a simple loop arranged in groups to create flowers. Again, there is mention of flowers combined in a line to make a chain stitch or worked individually to create leaves. And there are also a number of variations for taking this simple stitch to the next level. After this, we move on to the chain stitch. Chain stitch is a type of stitching where one continuous thread is looped back in itself, meaning there is no bobbin thread. Chain stitch can form flowing curved lines. They are used in surface embroideries and show different types of drawings in it. That is level 2 and for class 7th, and now we are moving on. That was the manual, and we are moving on to level 3rd. The 3rd level, wherein the child has learned all the basic 4 embroideries of the first level, progressed to the 2nd level, and now the final embroidery piece comes out, wherein the child has, embedded everything, and the child feels all these embroideries are impregnated in his brain and is able to process now, go further to a progressive stage now. And the first embroidery stitch we have here.
I think it seems to be a technical glitch somewhere. So, uh, Dr. Srivastava, you want to continue with it by the time ma'am comes back? I think in the meantime we can really, talk about this. This is really an excellent session that is going on, and I think I am getting a lot of feedback from the participants who have joined us on different platforms, and most of them are trying to, put in their thoughts, vis-a-vis saying that they have done that at some point of time in their childhood also. So the basic criteria of these skill modules is not that something new has been introduced into the system. I think we all have done it in some form or the other, and the schools are still
Yes,
doing it as a hobby class or as the extracurricular activities. Or earlier there used to be SUPW. I also remember doing this, and somebody has said, how would we take it up in the schools? And I would just mention that it is not a very difficult scene, because ma'am would be taking you around and we might have a few questions, but they are back, and I'll just complete my sentence that even if you take a small cloth of say half a meter or 1 meter and just try to make lines, and then all these stitches can be taught, maybe 2 stitches or 3 stitches, and the child can just go home and try to practice this, because that's the way a sixth class student or a fifth class student would
exactly.
take up this particular art form. And it has nothing to do with something that one really has to put as a grade, or one has to really go into a commercial field. I think it can be a life skill if all of us know how to do these basic running stitches. And as ma'am has already mentioned, that these can be used if you have any last moment fall of your dresses, or something that you really need and you don't have
Exactly.
anybody around, and you can just use these techniques to get it done. So please, it should never be taken in a way that we are trying to learn something which is very difficult and which is an art form which is not meant for a particular section, but it can be a really fun activity which at the end can be a life skill for all of us, whether boys or girls, or teachers
All
or
right.
parents or anybody put it together. So ma'am, you're back, so please take the
Thank you. Thank you very much, ma'am. There was a technical glitch, and sorry, technology befriends you at any time. I am moving on to the Sozani embroidery, and this is a needlework technique. It is used to adorn pashmina shawls and ferns, and the craft is one such that has withstood the test of time. So they are all done in the karkhanas, which are the local workshops of these people, the craftsmen, and it is also called as Sozni Kam or Sozni Kari. After Sozni, when we have learned, we move on to the Tilla embroidery. This is a traditional craft of Kashmir, and we can see it everywhere on the shawls and the suits. And the thread of Tilla is altogether a new dimension, where malleable copper is used as an underwire and coated with silver or gold hues to achieve the exact desired colors. And this is done on ferns and different shawls. When we have learnt all this, we move on to the importance. That was the skill manual for class 8 and the third level. We have the learning outcomes. What are we learning out of it? The concept of Kashmiri embroidery in silk route. The learners will know about the Kashmiri embroidery, its history with silk route, and initiation of its trade with other countries. Learners will be able to study types, uses, processes, and patterns of Kashmiri embroidery. And at class 6, learners will be acquainted with 4 types of stitches, that is running, back, stem, and cross stitches. The types of stitches for class 7th, learners will be acquainted with 4 types of stitches: satin, woven, spider wheel, chain, and lazy daisy stitches. And then for the third level, Learners will be able to use practice and acquainted with technicalities of embroideries, that is crewel, sozini, and tilla embroidery. And working knowledge of the needles and threads, it's very, very important. And children will know what are the different needles, what are the different threads used. So they need to have the knowledge of this. Only then they can go for stitching. Learners will be able to give physical shape to their creativity, what we are working on, what we are focusing, by making decorative household items such as tablecloths and stitching material and embroidery techniques. Very important. It manages and reduces stress and anxiety. When the craftsmen are working on their masterpieces, they are in a happy go lucky mood and they're all singing. They're all singing. With the result, the embroidery, when they do, it reduces their stress, and we are engaging the learners in such type of productive work and activity which will help in managing and reducing the anxiety level. After we do the different types of stitching, what is the importance of this Kashmiri embroidery? Number first, that embroidery skills learned and practiced actually helps the society. Children learn respect for time and labor that went into producing a masterpiece. A child learns discipline, which is very important, and patience and time management from accomplishing an embroidered project. And learning these skills for themselves will transform over to gaining empathy towards that art and other people around him. The second very important importance is that skills learned from embroidery also nurture creativity and ingenuity. As I said, the main focus is on creating creativity, on nurturing creativity, and children will be able to produce masterpieces by doing embroidery on their scarves, on their hankies, and presenting it to their friends. It also teaches them money management here. They can put up a stall and sell it across in their school and to their friends, to their parents. These early DIY projects easily transform over to the skills for the adults, which are also very important. And these children learn outdoor, and they are outdoor enthusiasts, so they learn everything about these skills. And the fourth, very important, entrepreneurs are easily grown from those that learn embroidery. And this teaches a child money management, and projects can not only be given a gift, which allows for saving money, but also can be taught how to invest and how to work on different pieces of art. These were the importance of Kashmiri embroideries. But now, this is a workshop which we did recently, and we had hired a local artisan who had come here and who talked about this Kashmiri embroidery in our workshop. A very pertinent issue which I want to bring to the notice of the audience is that initially, when this craftsman, this embroidery took over, it was only done by males. It was gender biased. But now, ladies have taken it up. The females have come into this field. And so that gender sensitivity has come in. Both male and female work together hand in hand in this industry. That was the Kashmiri embroidery done there. These are some of the women entrepreneurs I have picked up from the valley to tell everybody that this is no more only in the pocket of the males, but the ladies have taken over. We have Ikra Ahmed, who has a startup called Tulpalav. Tulpalav is a Kashmiri word. It means to pick up your baggage, to pick up your dresses. The first online clothing store, and she blends modern fashion with Kashmiri culture. And she's most popular custom made tilla work she does. We have another lady, Zamruda Akhtar, who is doing a commendable job. I would like to request everybody to look into this slide. She is doing a commendable job, and she has set up 300 centers in Kulgam and Anantnag district. She works in crewel embroidery, and she has trained around 4,000 women in traditional crewel embroidery. That is women coming to the forefront. It's not that I'm a woman, I'm presenting it, but I'm telling the audience that woman coming to the forefront. And Mahin Shabir, she again has a startup, Paper City by Mahin, crafts and designs from paper and available waste material and turns them into an incredible craft. That was to bring in that now there is no more gender biased industry of embroidery in Kashmir. Women and men work together and they have done a commendable job. And there are many more women who are internationally known and acclaimed for doing this job. Now, when we have done everything, it's not the question of evaluating a child, but yes, definitely, if we have introduced a skill, we need to know the evaluation. But the evaluation has to be done in a fun-filled manner. We don't have to tell the child कि कल तुम्हारा test है, तुम आ जाना और needlework का test है. We are evaluating it on the basis, and the students' knowledge regarding the Kashmiri embroidery will be assessed. That is the practical knowledge which we are working for. That's 35 marks. Knowledge of the threads and color combination is 8 marks. Understanding of the needles of different types of sizes is 7 marks. And use of particular needles and cloth, which is very important, that's 10 marks, more weightage to that. Unless and until he or she knows the needles and the cloth, he or she will not be able to bring out a masterpiece. And creativity, which is very, very important because after COVID, this creativity part has seen a downsurge because everybody at the click of a button on their mobile or the laptop. I'm moving on to the theory part. That's for 15 marks. We have the multiple choice questions. We have the true and false. We have the fill-ups. And we have the short answer types. So this is the evaluation criteria which we have made up and to assess what the child does. Again, I would like to request, it is a club work. It is a hobby work. It has to be taken in a fun-filled manner. And children are learning lots of things by it. Creativity, productivity, learning empathy, and learning love for the art and enhancing this art. That
Thank
was
you
all
so
from
much.
our team.
Thank you so much, Ms. Manju Bali. While going through this presentation, I also thought of few questions. Neeti ma'am, may I pose
Sure,
my
ma'am.
questions?
Sure, ma'am. Sure. Go ahead.
I was just wondering that as we are talking about, integrating skill and different types of skill. So, will you be able to help the audience, the faculty, the educators understand that how are we able to develop vocabulary, perhaps, integrating language
All right.
through this entire plethora of things done under this skill manual of Kashmiri embroidery?
Thank you very much, Neeti ma'am. Rather a very pertinent question. When we talk about the Kashmiri embroidery and we talk about Kashmir as such, there are certain vocabulary which I will use like Kashida Kari or Kalam or Zalak Dosi. We are enhancing the language part also, ma'am. So we are making the children to learn about not only the art and culture of Kashmir, but the language part also. So we are enhancing their vocabulary on Kashmir and making them learn those terminologies, Richa ma'am, which are connected to this art. It's not that we are thrusting or pressurizing them to learn the entire, Kashmiri, which is not possible. But all the words which are needed for this manual and what is needed in the craftsmanship or this embroidery. So definitely, ma'am, it enhances their vocabulary about a language that's Kashmiri, ma'am.
That's really wonderful.
Thank you, ma'am.
And what
Thank
I
you.
can see from the entire presentation that, I mean, we can also talk about that how it's also integrating the idea of, design thinking.
Yes,
How
ma'am.
it's bringing in the entire, also with design thinking, you have the flora of
Yes.
the state, which
Yes, ma'am.
comes into, which comes to life through those beautiful
Yes.
motifs that are created
Yes.
by the various
Yes.
Kashida cars, if I may say so. I would say
Yes, ma'am.
definitely that word that is there. So it was really beautiful. I
Thank
think
you.
Neeti ma'am is about to tell me that it's 5.
Ma'am,
And
yes,
over to
ma'am.
Neeti ma'am now.
Yeah, thank you, ma'am. Thank you. And I think this has been a wonderful session. We didn't even
Thank
come to know that it's been an hour now, and there is
thank
a
you.
time to just wrap up the session. It could have gone for another half an hour. And the most important thing that I got from this entire presentation is that the chat is full of people who are revisiting their childhood, and they say, "Oh, we have done this 30 years ago. We have
Yes,
done this 20 years ago." So the point here is that we all have done this in some way or the another in our school systems, and somewhere down the line we're still doing it. But maybe some schools are more into robotics. Maybe some schools are more into something which is really peppy for the today's generation of students that are there. But one thing ma'am has pointed out very clearly, and I would agree with that, that these sort of skills will teach you the creativity that is always there, but it really gives you the calmness. It really gives you a peace of mind, and it gives you the patience and the other things associated with it. And let me tell you, I would share an example where I came across, somebody who was sharing about her daughter's experience, because during the time of the COVID, it was like everybody was stressed in their own way, including the school students and the kids and all. They suddenly were introduced into say a crochet or a crochet training
yes,
by
yes,
their grandmother. And that student who was a college student, I'm not even talking about children, we can say the children are still have time and they have their mindset. She was a college student and she loved it, and she had that sort of peace of mind, and she enjoyed it with the colors, with the designs and things like that. So these art forms have n number of advantages if we don't try to put them into a box, saying okay
right,
ये स्किल मॉड्यूल है, इसको हम कैसे पढ़ाएंगे, इसको हम क्या करेंगे, हम इसको कैसे असेस करेंगे. इट इज अ हम्बल रिक्वेस्ट, प्लीज डोंट go into all those
exactly.
nitty-gritties. Don't put yourself into that scenario where the skill module has to be delivered for a certain
Yeah.
specific reason. Then n number of students should have certificates, and then n number
Yes,
of students. It has to be what you have achieved. Like we
exactly.
had one of the teacher or probably a faculty, Paramjeet Kaur. She said we can really make a handkerchief.
Exactly.
Even we have learned two stitches in a year, or
Exactly.
out of these modern, we can just make a flower, and we can just make a handkerchief. That
True.
can be our identity instead of putting a name or instead of putting some brand. So I agree with all these things. And if anybody has anything to put in, I would give the
Ma-
forum to them, and then
Ma'am,
probably
Ma'am, I
yes,
would
ma'am.
like to add one thing. I'm sorry I did not answer my question. I said through the presentation that there are blossoms and flowers and flora and fauna. The main concept is we are adoring nature, ma'am. We are, that's a nature with us. So all Pashmina shawls or Kanikari shawls, they have these things. So that's love for nature, ma'am. So we're draping these shawls with us to make us feel that nature is important for us, ma'am, and we are
Okay.
closer to nature.
Perfectly
Thank you,
fine.
ma'am.
I'll just
And
say one
most
thing and then hand it over to Dr. Sir, because there is a time constraint now,
Yes,
and there
yes.
are at least 10, 15, or 20 of the
Thank you.
participants who have one single question, and that the question is how should we introduce it into the schools? Because this entire presentation has talked about the different forms, the different techniques, the different ways. It is beautifully done, but they said if we just as a school want to have it, how should we have it? And that is something if Dr. Srivastav can just
Pramod. Yeah.
answer for us.
You.
Yes, yes, yes. Thank you so much. See, it is very simple. We should not call it for class 6, class 7, and class 8 only. If a very good name has been given by Sandeep sir, it is level 1, level 2, and level 3, and by Niti ma'am also. So if we take it as a challenge at level 1, level 2, and level 3, say for example, if a class is of class 11th class student, it means what he has got only 2 years in the school. So it means what he don't have the 3 years in the school now, so he should not be taught about the this my skill subject. Yes, of course he can be taught. See what this is what 10 to 15 hours course is there, not more than that. So why not in 1 year if we are going to complete? It depends on what the child's capability also. We can plan in such a way where the module one should be taught first, then module second, and then module third. So we have to go in sequence. That is a must. We cannot right away start. The needle work or the thread work or even if we don't understand what the color matching, color concept, the clothing and all everything, until unless we don't understand the basics of anything, any subject or any language or anything, we cannot go for the advancement. So it is important that we have to go step by step, and it can be taught definitely to any grade, to any students. Yes. The second part of the question is what? How to implement. See, initially, what we did at our school, we have called some, what, expert. Those who are expert, where our teacher also, they have, even if they are doing it knowingly or unknowingly, they cannot teach the skill as a subject. So we have to call for the some expert. Some sessions should be organized for the teachers and specialized for the students also, and then slowly, gradually, we can introduce. Thank you.
Thank you so much for this wonderful answer. We have Ms. Jyoti. She would just like to put in one query. Ma'am, please.
Thank you, Niti ma'am. Ma'am, I want to know, do we need different types of clothes for different types of stitches?
Yes, ma'am, definitely. We have the velvet and we have the satin and we have the woolen clothes. It depends upon the type of the embroidery, ma'am, which goes on it. So there are some textiles, some cloths which don't take up particular type of embroidery. But when we are introducing it, teaching, we have to tell the children what type of embroidery will go on this particular cloth, but it goes on everything, silk, woolens, and I talked about the crewel work. That's a little coarse cloth, ma'am, on which this crewel embroidery is done. So there are different types of textiles, ma'am, different materials on which this embroidery goes. It's even, if you see across these days, summer season is set in, ma'am, and the Kashmiri embroidery is on cotton clothes also, cotton suits also. Males wearing a kurta, cotton kurta, it has the embroidery also. So it's on all fabrics almost.
Fine. Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you. And Richa, ma'am, you wanted to ask something?
Yes, actually, I just when I was like again hearing it all, I realized that it is actually already very integrated with all the subjects nearly.
Yes, ma'am.
No, there is the idea of space, because
Yes.
every time you are working
ma'am.
on the stitches, there is a sense of space, and the design
Yes.
thinking is
Yes,
already
ma'am.
there.
Yes,
There is
ma'am.
a little bit of the threads, the kind of threads
Yes,
we are
ma'am.
using. So you have the history is already there in terms of
Exactly.
Kashmiri embroidery,
Yes, ma'am.
and the geography comes in through the motifs, I think.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
it seemed like a very beautiful ensemble,
Yes.
which is already a very beautiful ensemble of the Sozni, the Ari, the Tilla, the different types of embroideries that are there. And
Yes, ma'am.
anybody can pick up the very basics. Classes like almost 7, 8, 9, 10 years old. Slowly and gradually, children can be
Exactly.
just taught. I remember when we were introduced, we were asked to just do a very plain running stitch initially for some time.
Exactly.
And that is how I think we can initiate to reach up to the level of excellence.
Yes,
Thank you,
ma'am.
Neeta, ma'am, once
Thank
again.
you. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you so much. I think we're already, over our limited time schedule, and I would really want all of you to come and join us again. I think probably on 19 we have another session which is talking about embroidery. So it's just an extension of the one module which we are already talking about today. That is the Kashmiri embroidery. So we'll be taking in total the embroidery as a skill module. So I will like you all to join us on that day, and there'll be a lot of queries, and there's still some queries which unfortunately I'm not able to take it, but maybe we'll take it on that day. And thank you, Sandeep Sethi sir, if he's around, for being here with us, and all the team members here, the resource persons, Dr.
Thank you.
Shreyas sir, Richa ma'am, and everyone here. From us at CBSC, we are really thankful for having you with us. And this was a vision which was, in a way linked with the NEP 2020 for skilling of the students and the, the generations that we have coming in with us. So thank you so much, and all the
Thank you
best.
very much, ma'am. Namaskar and
so
thank
much.
you.
Thank
Namaskar.
you,
Thank you.
Namaskar.
Thank
Thank
you,
you very
everyone.
much.
Thank you.
Done.
Mm.